For those of you that don't know me, I'm Peter Seidler. After me, Fran, who runs Family Health Centers, Bob McElroy, who everybody must know, who runs Alpha Project, and my kind of private businessman collaborator from day one on this about 3 years ago, Dan Shea, will finish up. First of all, I just want to thank, we're at University of San Diego. We've held 24 3 to 4 hour symposiums on homelessness here over the past 3 years, co-hosted by Dr. Harris, the president of the University of San Diego. They've been absolutely terrific, as have the other leading educational institutions in San Diego. President of San Diego State, Adela De La Torre, has jumped right in. Hand off the mic. Okay. Oh, okay. Adela De La Torre has jumped right in, and along with a couple of really significant professors, I don't know if Muna is here, but University of San Diego State, Constance Carroll, who runs the community colleges, have just been with us every step along the way, pushing our city to be best in class in homelessness from kind of an independent, private sector, fact-based, analytical approach that has the right mix of compassion, economic sense, and basically straight talk, where the best ideas rise to the top. And when I mentioned the other, I always hesitate to thank folks because you can't capture them all, but UCSD, Point Loma, really the work by the educational institutions, and you will see this more going on. The politicians have a job to do. They're, voted in and given funding by us, the taxpayers, the private citizens. But I think if our city is going to continue to lead, and I believe lead this country on homelessness, the effort needs to be spearheaded by the private sector. And we will, in collaboration with the educational institutions, with the hospitals, with the significant businesses in San Diego, as well as just private citizens who want to help, really do our best to make an impact. Tamara, who runs the task force, is here. Tamara's been the CEO of the task force, as you know, for less than a few months, and she's spectacular. She's been here in San Diego kind of as the number 2 person for the past couple of years. And with her help, with the help of Rick Gentry, who I know would be here, Rick, who runs the Housing Commission, had major back surgery last week. He's recovering. And so that kind of ends the part of today where I mention people that have really worked with us. The primary thing we're going to talk about today is the move to open up Golden Hall and the significance of that in San Diego's effort on homelessness. We could have had our Tuesday group, which has met every week for the past roughly 3 years to advance the ball, follow the facts, and push San Diego to best in class in every puzzle piece of homelessness. Decided to, give an update and cover some specific things. Highest on the list was the bridge shelter tent that was coming down so Father Joe's Village could build a very significant 500-unit permanent supportive housing facility. As we studied the facts, as it turns out, it became clear to us that the best place for the 150 very vulnerable women and children afflicted by homelessness was Golden Hall. And it took a little bit of work, but to the credit of our political leaders, the council, spearheaded in this case by Chris Ward and Georgette Gomez, who we really thank, the mayor, Kevin Faulkner, and his staff came together and primarily led the effort. But I think for a city in this country to put a homeless shelter next to city council, it's rare. And there's a lot of political reasons why politicians would not do that. And I think we should take a breath and recognize the political will it took to do it. We're going to talk a little bit about political will today, particularly when it comes to building permanent supportive housing, low-income housing units all across the county. And there was a promise made several months ago by our city council, and there have been commitments made by cities across the county to do that. The promise made by our city council, Dan Shea is going to talk about that. It was several months ago, where each district was going to put up at minimum 140 units. And I think it's our job in the private sector to make them follow up on that promise. So while today I think we recognize a significant positive step in opening Golden Hall, I think it's a step. And it's incumbent on us, the voters, the private citizens, the business community, the academics from all these great educational institutions to continue to push, because our city can and should and will be the best city in the country on homelessness. As you can see, I do a lot of work on yellow pads. That's the way I get organized. I have basically one more kind of comment to say when it comes to examples of our city being best in class in homelessness. What we've done in the private sector is study the issues and let the facts come to the top. I think our better politicians have done the same thing. We decided about a year ago, and we had a press conference in this room, that it was time to stop the continuous studying and act and recognize that whatever we do on homelessness as a city, it will not be perfect. There is no perfection on it. But we have enough facts to know very good things to do. Tamara is here, who runs the task force. We collaborated with her, provided funding, and now the database, the HMIS database that serves homeless people, is best in class. It's made a complete difference. That's a subject for another day, but it's an example of the best in class things that our city is doing after the proper amount of study and analysis. I think the collaboration of our educational institutions is really positive, and it's rare to see all the schools 3 years ago doing a lot of good independent things, which they continue to do and build on, but maybe, more than maybe, much more significantly today, they're doing stuff together. So what will happen over the next several months and over the course of time is academic reports on homelessness or professor-led classes on homelessness, jobs created for students coming out of our universities will be done collaboratively with, maybe USD and San Diego State doing it together, perhaps, UCSD and Point Loma, but it's an example of how the culture of our city, the desire of our citizens and our leaders to work together for the greater good, for the betterment of San Diego, will continue to happen. And I mentioned earlier, and again, I think before I hand the ball off to Fran, the significance of opening Golden Hall right next door to where the politicians work is something most cities wouldn't do. They would find political excuses or rationale not to do it. And the reason I'm putting a spotlight on that is, as we move forward, there's two, on homelessness as a city, we can juggle two balls. On the one hand, we have to compassionately, in an economically sound way, help the most vulnerable through homeless shelters or immediate services. The longer term and basically big second piece is we need to, with a housing first mentality, build thousands of low-cost units if we're going to ultimately have the homeless people be able to transition off the streets. We can do it in a compassionate way, we can do it in an economic way, and we can cover both the very short-term needs as well as the long-term answers, which will push us to where we need to go. So with that, I'm going to ask Tamara to come up. I'm sorry, ask Fran to come up. Tamara, you're welcome to come up anytime.
One thing, coming from a large family, you answer to any name that's called. Even hey you. Good afternoon. I am Fran Butler-Cohen. I'm the CEO of Family Health Centers of San Diego. That's San Diego's largest community health center. Those of you that are unfamiliar with health centers, I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. We have built on a history of almost a half a century. We provide a vast array of health services daily at more than 40 locations. The services include adult medicine, pediatrics, obstetrics, family planning, dental, vision, specialty services, mental health counseling, drug treatment, physical therapy, developmental services for children, and the list goes on. And one of the most important projects we have is our Healthcare for the Homeless project. Our 2,000-member workforce ensures that over 4,000 patients and clients are seen each and every day. Over 4,000 calls, 3,000 to 4,000 calls a day come into our health center. Many of those calls are looking for health care and looking for help and looking for services. Almost 1 million health contacts were rendered in 2018, and our mission is to serve those individuals who do not have insurance, are underserved, or underinsured. Of particular note, last year in our organization, we served 27,000 homeless people in our system of care. The number differs greatly from the point-in-time count. And people may ask, why is that? Look on the point-in-time count, educate as to why that could be so different. Because there are many restrictions for the point-in-time volunteers to keep them safe, to ensure security, but what happens is it results in an undercounting of the number of homeless people that we have in our county. Our mission is to not only provide services to our community's underserved population, but to work with a large network of social, medical, and human service providers to bring care to those with the highest need. Our organization has almost 400 partners throughout the county. Still, the growth of homelessness is a daily graphic reminder of what more needs to be done. We are very honored to be a part of a public-private partnership that includes Pete Seidler, Dan Shea, and their colleagues, and the Lucky Duck Foundation, who are not only influential philanthropists in our community, they have actively sought out solutions to the overwhelming burden and growing numbers of homeless persons in San Diego. The answer, in my humble opinion, after 33 years at the helm of this organization, lies not in quick fixes, but in quick action. The answers to eradicating homelessness lies in addressing the societal problems that have contributed to what we now see daily on the streets, in our neighborhoods, in our canyons, freeways, and throughout our entire city. We are number 4, and that's not a distinction that any fine city wants to have. The problem of homelessness did not occur overnight. Therefore, solutions need time to address the core fundamental contributors. Failures of the prison system, educational system, juvenile justice system, the breakdown of nuclear family structures, the inaccessibility of the right medical and mental health treatment, an economic downturn that was damaging, truly damaging to families and businesses, and the closure of needed residential facilities. I wonder if my son's out there. Have all contributed to what we have today. Thousands on the street with no jobs, no hope, and no help. The solution lies in fast-tracking credible and evidence-based solutions, not a flurry of activities and press conferences and sound bites. It lies in the provision of intermittent housing while care and housing can be found that will sustain a person or their family. It lies in transparency on all processes, successes and failures, and to diamond lane a new permit process for low-income, affordable housing and incentives for building units where people can live. Job training so we can offer formerly homeless persons not a wage, but a sustainable wage in a city such as San Diego. We need places for law enforcement to bring those wanting medical detox. We have none in San Diego. And sobering facilities where substance use disorder intervention can commence, not hospital emergency rooms, and not calling our responders to deal with these societal problems. And finally, support through recuperative beds and residential recovery facilities to support not only those in need, but our hospitals who are drowning in the cost of uncompensated care. One San Diego hospital that partners with our organization last year alone provided 7,000 to 8,000 patients care who are homeless. This is a burden that a medical care system cannot sustain. We recently were chosen as the operators of the Navigation Center. There's been a lot of talk in the media and other places as to the advisability of the purchase of that skydiving facility and turning it into a navigation center. I don't have a comment on that. I know we're going to get busy, and our staff who are in the front row right here, they will be very busy. We will be putting 15 to 20 people, outreach workers, and medical teams on the street to offer diversion services and to get people into care. We have property that we are ready to build for affordable housing, but every low-income developer that I talk to tells me it's going to take 5 years because the entitlement process is too darn long. We have got to come up with a different solution for that. I truly applaud Peter and I applaud Dan. I've worked with them for a while. They are advocates, yes, but they are also doers. And they demand that things get done in our town where so many are suffering. If we apply the algorithms that so many learned institutions use to really determine how many homeless people does San Diego have, the numbers come in at around 99,000. Is that number correct? I don't know. All I know is what we have right now, and I know if I do the math based on those algorithms, that's how many people that we have in this county. That seems a lot more real to me than 8,000, because I know 27,000 are being carried in our system alone. So we're ready. We're ready to continue our partnerships. We have some fantastic partners. We work with Bob McElroy over there at Project Alpha, who I always say goes where no one else wants to go. Thank you, Bob, for those services. We also work with all of the homeless providers throughout the region. So if we can summarize, we need better healthcare access. We need a new permitting process to get affordable housing done. We need to have transparency as what will happen with our navigation center. You will be able to go online on a portal and see everything that's happening on a daily basis, our successes and our failures. We need supportive services, clearly, and we need to have a commitment of X number of people off the street within X period of time. And I think if we bring our leaders together, we bring people that are providing the care, they're the experts on the ground. I learn more from our staff who have been formerly homeless about how to correct homelessness than from all the people that have opinions. Amen. Thank you. So I want to thank Dan and Peter again for asking me to come here today. It's really a pleasure, not so much speaking, but to work with you, and I will definitely, I am honored to be a part of your mission. We'll do whatever we can at Family Health Center San Diego. Thank you.
Bob McElroy, President Alpha Project, breaking the podium. I wasn't even planning on being here. Dan called me and said I need to be here, so here I am. What are we talking about? No, actually, we talked perfectly over the last week about Dan and Peter's frustration about getting Golden Hall. It's been used over the decades. Used before as a winter shelter program. It's kind of a no-brainer. It already exists. I like the fact that it is at the doorstep of City Hall. We'll see if they continue to do that. I think that it'll be successful, obviously, with the families. I'd like to see it maybe even bleed over into some single adults, but we'll see. I think the biggest thing that I can speak to is the fact that we'll have our 40th city come to San Diego on Friday. It'll actually be Ben Carson, who's the Secretary of HUD. It's coming out for a visit. It was going to be 15 minutes. He's up to an hour now. He's going to get an earful of solutions. 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, when the city stopped doing the winter shelter program, you guys remember that? I know some of the OGs in here do, Sister Ramunda, Sasha, some of the other ones were down here back in the day. You know, we had that winter shelter program for 5 months. And during that 5-month period, just the Alpha Project structure transitioned about 1,100 people through that facility. Some went home, some went into transitional housing that we used to have, some would find their own housing, some people got jobs, some people went to school, some people went back to the streets. But we gleaned off a portion of the folks that are out in the street. When the city in their infinite wisdom said that we're going to go housing first, I said it's going to be a disaster. First of all, who's going to build it, who's going to pay for it, and what neighborhood is it going to go into? We see those challenges here today. And it was a disaster because those people that we were gleaning off of that period of time, transitioned them somewhere else, backed up on the streets. Cost 20 people their lives, I think up close to 1,000 sick, and we were the nation's largest, we had the nation's largest death toll of Hep A. Dan and Peter came to me along with some other local philanthropists, the business community frustrated that nothing was being done, and I said we needed to go back and do the tents. We've always called them the tents. Now they're bridge shelters, a bridge to somewhere else. But they saw the logic in it. There's got to be a place for people to start the process of recovery. You sure as hell can't do it on the sidewalk. And we saw the numbers go down. We saw Hep A go away. And when I hear this misinformation about, well, we're not seeing the population go down. When we ran the Neil Good Day Center, and this was 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, we did monthly statistics to the Housing Commission. There were 250 on average, 250 new people registered as homeless at the day center every month. That's 5,000 people. That was just the day center. So every day, there's more and more people finding themselves homeless in San Diego. What we're seeing with the tents being open is the numbers staying, it actually has gone down a little bit. We're making a tremendous difference because now people have a start. I've got over 100 people. We just took over Cortez Hill Family Center. Say our prayers for us there. Say your prayers for us. We have over 100 families that are waiting to get in this facility. And you talk about data and these type of things. I'm not a big data guy. I'll just tell you, here's some data. There's a hell of a lot of people on the street. What other cities, as I said, are 40th cities coming in on Friday. Actually, I'm on the phone tomorrow with Darrell Steinberg, who's a great guy. If you guys know him, he's the mayor of Sacramento. He came down, toured the facility, went to Alfred Square, and now we're talking about building some housing in collaboration with the city of Sacramento. They're coming to San Diego for a reason, because what we're doing here is right. What we're doing is trend-setting. Garcetti came down, and his staff, we had 6 delegations from LA come down. What are they doing? They're doing 15 sprung structures in LA. Because everybody knows the billions aren't there, and the political will is not there to do permanent supportive housing. Yeah, I'd love to do it. We're building, we're opening 54 units for veterans next month. New construction. It takes 5 years and tens of millions of dollars to do it, to build it. So in the meantime, as I said, we've got to start that process. These 2 guys stepped up and said, Bob, we agree. They stepped up and bought those the bridge shelters for us, and the rest is history. You know, we've got a fluid environment of people transitioning. We've got over 270 people, I think, now, from just our bridge shelter that found housing. And that doesn't count all the people that have found their own housing and just left. We have people going to school and jobs and all this kind of stuff every single day. In fact, most of all you have been down there. You've seen it, how awesome it is. And seeing where people actually have hope. They're not the bag lady, the dumpster diver, the panhandler anymore. They're brothers and sisters, moms and dads, and grandmas and grandpas starting their life over again. A blessing. The key is, of all these cities that have come down, I've only seen 2. San Diego being one, and Vancouver, Washington is the other, where the philanthropists, the folks in town that want to do something about the issue, want to step up and put their money up front, but the politics has talked them out of it. They want to see a return on their investment. These 2 guys just did it. But every city has said, how did you get the business community involved? I said, well, these 2 guys did it, but there are hundreds of others behind the scenes that help us do what we do, but they want to see the streets cleaner. They want to see people get into housing. They want to see families getting off the street. They want to see a return on that investment. So I tell these other cities, if you don't have that relationship with your business community, you need to build it. Somebody needs to lay it out there and put it on. You know, we put sunsets on everything. I've been trying to go out of business for 33 years. We always say if we say we're going to do something and we don't do it, then fire us and get somebody else. We must have been doing something right because we're still around. But I feel that we have an obligation not only to the homeless folks, the drug addicts, the convicts, the folks that are marginalized. We have a responsibility to them, but we also have a responsibility to the communities in which we operate. If you drive around our facilities, and I tell these other cities that come down, drive around the facilities, all the agencies, and do it in your own community. And if it looks like Skid Row outside my front door as a provider, then you probably don't want me operating in your neighborhood. You come to our facilities and the neighborhoods are clean and free of the Skid Row optics. And we don't do it because we push anybody around. We just let people know you're a human being. If I'm parked, if you had a house here and I park my butt on your doorstep and I'm slamming heroin, would you want me there? Would you want me urinating in your front yard? No. So as we show respect to our folks and ask them to be good citizens, it's translated back into the community. We're out there cleaning up the community every single day. You know, we've got a program called Wheels of Change. I know I'm getting off topic, but you invite me here, this is what you get. You guys have seen, some of you have gone out with our crews, and you've seen our people, our 10 or 15 people that suit up and get to go out in the neighborhood every day for $48 and for 4 hours a day and clean up the neighborhood. And many of these folks are the ones that are always marginalized. You know, they're the bag lady, they're grandma, they're on disability, they're handicapped, they're mentally ill. They never get invited to the party, and then you see them with their vests on and their pickup sticks, and they have their job is twofold. Let's pick up some of the stuff on the sidewalk, you know, say hi to people in the neighborhood, and then also mentor our brothers and sisters that I've been camping with for 20 years and tell them, hey, you might want to consider this bridge shelter at some point in time and come in and start the process of recovery. It's a beautiful thing. In the meantime, we've already cleaned up over 50 tons of trash and debris. People who are always stereotyped as the bum, the drug addict, the crazy person. I've been all those things, and I still am the crazy person. But giving people empowerment, empowering people, that's what makes a difference. These guys believed it. Now they've drank our Kool-Aid. They're involved, and we're getting stuff done. Amen?
Yeah.
All right. Dan Schaefer.
We're going to pass the bowl around, get some donations going in here? What's going on?
We just want to get you off the stage.
Everybody. Don't invite me to your party.
So thank you, Bob. Thank you, Fran and Peter. Thanks for your comments. I'm going to try to summarize a couple of key points, but one or two points of interest. When we started this endeavor, Peter and I discussed at length, where do you start, how do you start, what happens, and we agreed that instead of studying the 10-second political soundbite to determine what the facts are, we needed to study the facts. So we didn't talk to any politicians for a very long time, but we talked to a lot of people in the community. We read, don't know the number, 1 or 2 dozen reports that all said the same thing, that we ought to do, but nothing had been done yet. We spent a lot of time trying to understand what was real and what wasn't. And we were told by a lot of people, we've got this, we've been doing this for a long time, we don't need you guys. Nobody cares. And we said, we care. So, you know, and those people on the street care. So we're going to stick around. And then they said, one other point will come to me in a minute, but they were just obsessed with the idea that we're studying this to death, we've been doing this for years, and we've really got it understood. But there was nothing happening. So we decided to take a different path, and we also talked about what happens here. I've been doing work in San Diego, mostly behind the scenes, for 20 plus years. And I was telling Peter, because he was newer to town, that what city and county politicians do is they work hard to frustrate the do-gooder until they just go away. So Peter and I agreed that if we're gonna start this, we can't quit. So no matter how frustrating it gets, and believe me, it gets frustrating and it's painfully slow, we're not going away. Haven't gone away for 3 years, not gonna go away for another many years. And the progress we've made that we get credit for is enormous. Look at what you guys have done. And we always say it wasn't just you guys, it was a group of people, our Tuesday group, which has been meeting for the last 3 years, and including Christmas Day and New Year's Day because it fell on a Tuesday this year. The homeless don't take a day off, so we didn't take a day off. There's just a lot of work to go, but it's always about where are we now, what's the next step, how do we keep pushing forward, but still painfully slow. So this is a milestone with Golden Hall opening. We started this endeavor 2.5 years ago. We've argued with the lack of political will and always the reasons why it can't be done. And there was one reason after another, each one that we debunked every time they brought it up, until, as I like to unhappily say to a few of our beloved politicians, the one they got us on was, well, we have a secret deal and we can't really tell you what it is, so that's why we can't use it. That was 2 years ago, but we kept chipping away at Golden Hall. Golden Hall is important because of the reason Peter said it needs to be right there at City Hall, and they need to see that there's real human beings that are involved, and they'll have a chance to see, touch, and feel them to some degree. So we said 2.5 to 3 years ago, this should be the first shelter that ever opens in San Diego, or the next one, and it should be the last one to ever close. But still, we got pushed back until finally, I would say, we wore them down. The Father Joe tent was closing. They had all kinds of ideas of where to put people. None of them were practical in our view. To the credit of those that were working on it, they were looking for solutions, but we still didn't believe putting half of them one place and half of them another place was a viable alternative. We walked into the mayor's office on Thursday last week, and out of the blue, they informed us that Golden Hall is now on the table. All 150 people from Father Joe's is going there, and oh, by the way, there's a few other rooms that could be used, so the door was opened a little bit to what might happen in the future, and that's a key point for where we think we need to go from here. Nothing has to be as slow as it has been for the last 3 years. There's a way to pick up the pace. It's never going to be as fast as any of us want. But what we have to agree to is that we have open, transparent discussion, whether it be with politicians or others. In our view, the politicians do not have to lead, and only they lead on this issue, because to them, to many of them, it's about good things that need to happen. To many, it's about what's my next elected office. To many, it's here's how the money works, and this is how we see it. But it's not always about what's the right thing for the most vulnerable people in our city. And when we can have as many empty buildings in the city of San Diego and the county, not just the city, as many empty buildings as we have here, and we will not use them to take people off the streets, even during inclement weather, there's something wrong with that. So the stewards of our taxpayer resources and the stewards of our taxpayer money maybe need to look at this a little bit differently. And in order to get them to look at it differently, we bring the private side of the community together, and we've organized a good number of people to say there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and if everybody takes a different piece and works on it, we can collectively over time begin to push things together and maybe make a difference. The key right now in our view is it's time to begin to accelerate the discussion. It's time to have more transparent discussion. Lots of facilities out there that could be used. After 2.5 to 3 years of argument in Golden Hall, to find out that for all the reasons we were told it couldn't be used, it really can be used, is pleasing and pleasant. We applaud the mayor and Chris Ward and Georgette Gomez. We do applaud them for that. But now let's apply it to all those other places. They all won't work, but some of them will. And it's about getting people off the street at minimum during inclement weather, and secondarily into places where they can count on having a little bit longer stay. As Bob said, the beauty of the shelters are, it is a place to put people and begin a process that wouldn't otherwise start for the next 5 to 10 years. So,
Questions?
yeah.
If I could just add a couple more comments. We've mentioned some of our politicians, the mayor, Georgette, Chris, who have really done good work. Others have as well. I think in addition to the city, the county, there's reason to be optimism there. I'll call out Nathan Fletcher, who during his campaign mentioned that he was in agreement with the mayor, believing that homelessness was the #1 issue in this city. And Nathan has really hit the ground running. We've asked for transparency from the politicians. Our group is completely transparent. We invite anybody and everybody that's significant to pop in and spend an hour on Tuesday with us. Nathan's made himself available as the sole, for what it's worth, I'm an independent, but Nathan's the sole Democrat on the among the Board of Supervisors. He's collaborated with the Republicans. He's reached across to the city of San Diego and other cities. And I think, we handed out a written press release that talked about the optimism that we do have because of the spirit of collaboration in this great city. We just have to keep our foot on the accelerator. And my final point before we open it up to Q&A, for any politician that says, let's do another study, we've done enough studies. The Housing Commission is spearheading a slightly different study right now, which we're working with them, and we really welcome. It's not going to be a strategic report on homelessness that's put in a drawer. It's going to be a living and breathing document that will be finished, they promise us, by early summer, and then updated every quarter. So my expectation is this will be the last draft of a strategic document that this city ever does, because this one will be updated every quarter. It'll be best in class. It'll get the best from the politicians, the Housing Commission, the task force, the private sector. And to the politicians that maybe are afraid to have the political will to build low-income housing in their district, there really should be no reason not to. And we're going to put the spotlight on those that do a great job and those that maybe hesitate and don't live up to their commitments. And people in the private sector that want to help or want to analyze or want to pontificate about perfection, the way we ask people to, in a transparent way, collaborate with us is by saying, if you come up with a best-in-class puzzle piece on homelessness, whether it's a shelter, a voucher program, permanent housing, study it, show it in a transparent way to be best in class. We're not looking for perfection, but show it to be best in class, and put your money where your mouth is. If you put your money where your mouth is and it's best in class, we'll collaborate with you, and we'll put our money where our mouth is. And I think those are the type of things that we've seen over the past 2 or 3 years weaved into San Diego's culture on homelessness. And as long as we keep that momentum going, our city will continue to be a leader. Things we do, like the bridge shelters, as Bob McElroy mentioned, that have had 40 other cities come and learn and try to copy, are strong evidence to the good things that are happening here. And like Dan said, those of us in our Tuesday group, which includes Dr. Harris from University of San Diego, it includes participation from San Diego State, from the other schools, from the best businesses in this city, and from some of the sharpest minds. We're not going to go away. We're going to help try to find that right balance between compassion and economic common sense on homelessness, so our city can continue to be a leader on this. And as timely this week, we do applaud the politicians for making a strong statement by opening Golden Hall in their neighborhood to house some of the most vulnerable homeless women and children in our city. So any questions, we welcome.
And one last comment before questions, and we'll take as many questions as you want. When we began this endeavor and did our analysis, we came back with a report, whereas everybody told us it's about the money and only the money. If we had more money, we could do better work. We came back with a different analysis, and the analysis was this issue is really about two things. It's about leadership, but really the lack of leadership, because there hasn't been any visible leadership here in San Diego on this issue. And it's about the proper management of resources, because there is a boatload of money that comes into San Diego from the feds and from the state, but we have silos and people don't talk to each other and they spend wildly across those silos. And as Peter said earlier, we've had 24 symposiums at USD. We've spent a great deal of time bringing those people together, trying to be silo busters, getting them to talk to each other. It's a slow, painful process, but a lot of discussion going on that's different than it used to be. So with that said, any questions from anyone?
The Lucky Duck Foundation paid for the 3 bridge shelters 2 years ago. So are you putting forth more money for this 4th tent, which will be put up in about 3 months?
So to be clear on that and fair on that, so we paid for 3 structures in 2 locations. And that means the Alpha Project is a double tent.
Okay.
And VVSD we paid for in agreement with the city. We were gonna start with 2, and they said if they bought 1, would we do a 3rd? And we said yes. The city actually paid for the Father Joe's tent. So that comes down while the women and children go to Golden Hall, and it'll take 8 weeks or more to put it back up a couple blocks away, and the city is doing that at their expense. We have offered, under the right circumstances, to put up more industrial structures if we get the political will to find sites that are worthwhile. We also would like to see other city buildings used that don't require new industrial structures as an alternative, and that's the beginning of a new discussion.
So to clarify, the relocated Father Joe's shelter will be paid for by the city.
It will be.
And for what it's worth, people talk a lot about our Tuesday group or Lucky Duck being, the bridge shelter people. We've helped fund more than a dozen at this point homeless projects or homeless initiatives. Some very long-term housing first focus, some immediate have impact today, kind of low-hanging fruit things. And we will continue to do that. Again, like I said, anybody that comes to us with a best-in-class idea, we want to collaborate with you. Some of it's, putting our collective brain power into action, and some of it involves writing a check. And, for what it's worth, Lucky Duck started out with Pat and Stephanie Kilkenny. It was their family foundation. They collaborated with us. They had a motion that tugged them towards homelessness. So they made their family charity all about homelessness. We've collaborated with them, and literally dozens, if not hundreds, of people have contributed to the foundation, some small, some big. And at this point, I think without a doubt, it's San Diego's #1 charity on homelessness. And, like all the actions we're doing here, it's a continuous process and will only get bigger.
Any other questions?
Are you going to be available for one-on-ones?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the navigation center that was supposed to open this?
So I was skeptical in the early days on the Navigation Center and how it was proposed. The fact that they're working with family health centers makes it a whole lot better than it would have been or could have been. They are data-driven people. They know what metrics are needed to help determine where we should all go in the future, and they're focused on that. They also have a large organization. They have people they can put out in the field who don't just have to stay at the Navigation Center, and I think it has its greatest hope in the hands of family health centers.
I would add Keely Halsey, who's the mayor's #1 person on homelessness, has really fine-tuned the strategy, put up, in collaboration with Fran, followed the facts, followed the analytics, and as Dan mentioned, it's not just a bricks and mortar concept at this point. There's a lot of outreach, in other words, like well-trained social workers going to find homeless people wherever they are, whether it's downtown or in the canyons or what have you, get their information into an iPad and let the process work from there. So as a hub that will probably need a little more fine tuning, I think it has every chance to be a success.
Do you think the city's ever going to open the Golden Hall up to single individuals? What's the dialogue been like on that? I know Bob kind of talked about that.
My answer is I think they will get there. I think at this point, I'm hoping at this point, and especially with the press involved, what we want are transparent discussions, not behind the doors, behind closed doors discussions. There's no reason it couldn't be. So the discussion, I think, pivots from here where we are, not tomorrow. We got to get these first 150 people taken care of, but why not? Why couldn't it be? Why wouldn't we do it? So I'm hopeful, but there's been no real dialogue on what's the next step there, just that it is possible to have another step.
Dan, on your housing goals, number 2 is provide a status report from each of the 9 districts on low-income housing, and you said 140 units in each district. Do you not think that's a little ambitious considering the fact that there have been developers who tried to put in 50 units for low-income seniors, and they're getting tremendous pushback from community members?
Let me address the first part of that. Yes, neighborhoods often push back immediately. I think what we would ask our politicians to do is what Bob McElroy and Dan and myself and others did on these bridge shelters. Before an announcement is made that you want to build something or put something up, go around to the local community groups. In virtually all of these areas, the homeless situation is a disorganized mess of a problem. And if run well, evidence the bridge shelters, it takes a gut-wrenching, sad, disorganized homeless situation and organizes it into a clean, safe facility where the perimeter, in addition to the facility, is clean and safe also. And of course, the most important thing is there's great work being done on the inside. And I think if, rather than shy away from any kind of risk, the politicians that made the promise, 140 each, to build these units, did the groundwork to build confidence and showed the evidence that turning it into a best-in-class, well-run facility, I think the pushback would be way less. And we've seen examples of it being way less.
So my comment on that, Sasha, would be, they're the ones that said it, so let's hold their feet to the fire. Is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. Will it be hard? Yes, especially the way we have attempted to do it in the past. We need more facts, more information, people, that want to get it done, but they're the ones that stated it, so let's hold their feet to the fire publicly. Any other questions? We're let off easy today. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.